Hello BookTube, Books with Banks back again with another video, and today I'm not going to be talking about books again, but I will be talking about a fantasy series of sorts. I will be ranking the 9, what I've kind of classified as the 9 snowy, more wintry levels in the Fromsoftware developed Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring genre series of games that they have going on. Loosely or mechanically connected, if not exactly story or character connected series of games they have. So before I get into the ranking, this ranking of 9 different areas, if you haven't already, it would mean a lot if you could like and subscribe, and share this video with any of your friends, any other platforms. Thank you so much. Without any further ado, let's get into my criteria. So what I'm mostly concerned with here are how invested these levels get us, the players, in what is happening or has happened on a story level in these snowy places. What unique enemy and or boss encounters are offered in each area, also how much fun, how terrifying, how challenging, and or rewarding these places are to explore. Now, I won't be talking about any areas in Demon's Souls, the first game in this kind of genre of Fromsoftware developed games. I won't be talking about that game, anything there, because there aren't really any winter levels, aside from what I understand to have been some cut content along those lines. I will be talking about one area from the first Dark Souls, 2 connected areas from Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, then 2 areas in Dark Souls 3, 1 area from Bloodborne, 1 from Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and 2 connected areas from Elden Ring for a total of 9 different levels. I hope you enjoy. In ninth place, we have, unfortunately, and probably not too surprisingly, the Frigid Outskirts from Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin edition, specifically from the Frozen Ilium Lois or Crown of the Ivory King DLC. So I mean, this is an offshoot of the Snowy DLC area in the second game. More on the rest of that DLC higher up later on this list. But this place in particular is just a mess. This Frigid Outskirts, it's a mess. It takes a while to even figure out what you have to do, and then when you do know, it's not even all that helpful because so many of these like tanky reindeer elk things show up during the blizzards that obscure your vision and make it difficult to make sure you're headed in the right direction. And I mean, maybe if they would have made the blizzards the stretch of time that it was just snowy and you couldn't really see anything, if they made that last a little longer, or maybe if they made these reindeer thing a little less powerful, maybe fewer of them, and maybe make the boss at the end of it a little bit more interesting and not just a double kind of reskin of boss earlier. I'm not sure exactly what you could do to make this area better, but those are all kind of ideas that I can't imagine would have been too difficult to tweak. But as it stands, it's pretty miserable. I do have some fun memories of summoning help or NPC help to get through the area, but aside from that, that's really the only positive I can say. So then, in 8th place, we're going to go to the most recent game, and we're going to talk about the Consecrated Snowfield from Elden Ring. So this is a kind of hidden area, although it's not too tricky to figure out what you have to do with certain keys and going back down an elevator, or a grand lift type of thing, to get to this area. Similar to the Frigid Outskirts, it's another blizzard level, or a blizzard is a big part of it. However, this one does have a little bit more going on. You have a really cool city where you have to unlock some kind of these blue doors with these invisible assassin enemies. And I really, that type of level or kind of challenge shows up a couple times in Elden Ring, and I enjoyed exploring both cities where you have those blue doorways that you have to go to different places, different spots to unlock them, or light different torches or whatever on top, like in bell towers and stuff. So there are some interesting things kind of planted around the Consecrated Snowfield, but as an area itself, like the area design, I don't think any of those fun little combat encounters or puzzle solving type things are benefited by there also being a blizzard there. They're not benefited by the snow aesthetic at all. I really, when I do go back to play this, I'm really just gonna visit or view this area as a way to get to the Holly Tree, kind of really amazing side content stuff, and then B, other amazing side content stuff, the Moog blood kind of temple thing. Because yeah, like you can get to really cool optional areas and optional bosses if you go through the Consecrated Snowfield. In and of itself, it's not that crazy or not that great. Next up in 7th place, I'm going to not pivot from that game. I'm actually going to stick with Elden Ring and say the Mountaintop of the Giants. I think this is interesting. I think this is a gorgeous area, some beautiful scenery with the chains and the frozen giants. And there's, I mean, you've got a nice classic Fromsoftware invisible bridge, kind of part of it. The dragon here are the optional kind of mini quote unquote mini boss. Dragon is one of the most difficult. I found it to be one of the most difficult dragon enemies to fight, so that was a fun challenge. I also really enjoy the kind of castle that you can explore at the end to get a certain key, and the boss there, I can't remember his name, Commander Nail or Commander something, and he has two like soldiers with him. I really enjoyed that fight there, but I do feel like as far as all of the larger areas in Elden Ring, there's maybe just a little bit less to do in this one. It doesn't do a ton for me on a story level. So like while I enjoy all the scenery, none of it makes me think, ooh, I wonder what happened here, like some of the other areas on this list and even the other areas in Elden Ring. And of course, I mean, it is great that you have a battle with the, what's his name, the fire giant, something like that, at the end, and then you walk up to the massive cauldron thing. And so that's interesting, but everything I've said, I hope I've helped to kind of justify why it's definitely not ranked the worst of these areas, but why it doesn't really do anything more to stand out, to help itself stand out. Then next, in 6th place, I'm going to put a Sekiro area, and now I should say here, kind of asterisk, it snows at different times during the game. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and there are certain areas with snow on the ground because you're kind of up in the mountains a lot of the time. So picking one area that was like really snowy, I went with the Sunken Valley, and I think this is actually, it's pretty short area, pretty linear as far as this game's concerned. However, when you can go through this area, that's kind of up to you. And, you know, that might change the challenge level. I think, as with all the areas in this game, it's stunning. The bosses are definitely challenging, especially until you figure out their rhythm that you have to counter with your own rhythm. But yeah, really beautiful stuff. The statues are gorgeous. I think I like the scenery here, even though it's a smaller, more constrained, kind of like valleyway, kind of canyon kind of scenery. It's much more narrow and constrained type of thing versus the much more wide open Mountaintop of the Giants from Elden Ring. I think I prefer the design of Sunken Valley over that. So yeah, all that said, 6th place, Sunken Valley from Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Then in 5th place, I'm going to go with Dark Souls 3's area, Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, and I'm going to include, spoiler alert, kind of, if you haven't played the game, but Anor Londo. That kind of big reveal that you get Anor Londo at the top of Irithyll of the Boreal Valley after you get through the Pontiff Sullivan fight. What an amazing area, and I mean all the hints of where you are, and hints and more references to the gods from the first game, when you're going through the kind of lower rooms of the city, and I mean just running into Sigurd there with his Sue, all the paintings on the wall. I really like the scary spidery kind of lady enemies with like the long hair. They're really cool. I like I do really kind of like that it's just jump up in difficulty, because even after like going through the catacombs of Carthus, and even if you like go into kind of the challenge area of the Smoldering Lake, getting into Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, I feel like is definitely still a step up in quality, at least a step up from the quality or the difficulty of the mandatory areas that came before this in the game. Great bosses are here. There's some cool giants here. I didn't do a lot of PvP, but I was a Blade of the Dark Moon, is that what it's called? Where you go walk across, again, another invisible bridge in a snowy area. But yeah, so I really, really like this area. I do, however, think there are 4 that outdo it, either by originality, maybe they just had story things that resonated with me a little bit more strongly. In 4th place, I'm going to put Frozen Ilium Lois, the main part of the DLC, the snowy DLC area in Dark Souls 2, and I think the biggest selling point and the coolest thing about this area is you can go through it one time, unlocking all your shortcuts, finding all the hidden treasure. Some treasure's frozen under ice, some doors are frozen behind ice, and mounds of snow and whatnot. And then after you go through that first time, then you can melt a lot of that ice, and then you can go back through and you realize you've unlocked a whole bunch of different things. Also how the boss works at the end of the area, and how you can get NPC help basically by unlocking these armored knights or these statue knights that are around the kingdom, and you have to kind of go on a quest to find I guess it's 3 of them that you can find and unlock, and then they can join you in that battle at the end. Just really, really cool area from a like game design point of like what your goals are, what you're trying to do, and then sure there's backtracking, but it's different, like I said, because of that ice melting kind of feature there. And yeah, really, really great stuff. I do think there are 3 levels though that have in and of themselves tighter storylines and more intricate level design, more verticality, more, I guess, just more of an isolated adventure in and of themselves. And when I think about how FromSoft excels at designing some of these snowier areas, these top 3 are the ones that really come to mind. So in 3rd place, I'm gonna put Forsaken Castle Cainhurst from Bloodborne. One of the biggest negatives right out of the way is this is one of the more tricky areas to find, optional areas to find in all of these games. I mean, yes, you can pay attention to a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the item descriptions, and if you do that and, if you never get distracted or never have to turn your TV volume down for whatever reason, and you're always totally paying attention to what items you're getting and picking up and whatnot, then it's not that hard to find. But it can be, I mean, there's so much going on in these games that obviously I think a lot of people probably miss this area on the first time through. I wouldn't have known about it if my brother hadn't kind of held my hand in saying, okay, I missed this, I want to make sure you don't miss it. And so that's kind of, I had the benefit of my brother playing before I did to help me find this place. Only negative aside, great area. I love the blood fleas, the giant blood flea things. They show up in the DLC of this game as well. Really spooky, kind of cool enemy to fight. I love the ghosts. I like fighting them. I like the library aesthetic, like going through all the shelves and the different staircases moving in the castle. Obviously nothing quite like the staircases of the research hall in the DLC of this game, but there is some cool stuff with going up the different staircases, and I guess the staircases don't move themselves, but like the different walls and bookshelves, I think there's some stuff that like opens up bookshelves, and you can get from one half of the library to the other. Also, running across the rooftops near the end in that boss run, and I mean just how there's one lantern at the beginning and you have that shortcut right near the end, the elevator that goes right down to that. Really, really brilliant design all around that courtyard, all kind of circling up until you get to the top, and then you fight the boss up there. Really cool lore stuff. Yeah, and kind of the choice you can make at the end of it after you defeat Martyr Logarius, an amazing boss as well. So yeah, Forsaken Castle Cainhurst is my easy 3rd place. Then in second place, I'm going to say this might be a little controversial, but I'm gonna actually put in second place, or not controversial that it's not first, but controversial that it's so high, the entirety of the painted world of Ariandel. Now, I think this place covers a lot of what I like about like some of those more open areas I ranked lower on this list because it has its open stuff with wolves and the snowy trees that shoot magic at you and whatnot, and a big tower you can go explore with some massive knights guarding it, and like an archer on top of the tower. Really cool kind of open exploration stuff there. But then I'd say where this area excels and gets it as high as second place is when it starts to remind me of the first Painted World. More on that in a minute. If you've played these games, you know that that's probably the only thing left for first place. Again, more on that in a minute. Sticking with the Painted World of Ariandel, you go through this open area stuff, encountering wolves and whatnot, and then you get to a massive bridge, and there's a cathedral at the end of the bridge, and you can walk over there and talk to some NPCs over there, but you can't actually unlock the big event, the big climax to this story beat, this DLC story beat. And so then you have to go back across the bridge and go down into the village and explore the village and all of its winding rooftop ladder, intricate kind of workings there. And once you get through that, which I think is really, really tightly and nicely designed, you get into a slightly less well designed, but still kind of intricate as far as the different pathways and stuff go. This kind of intricate, like rocky hillside kind of mountainous exploration, and you can be up on top and then you can find a way down a little below, and there's a spot where a big ice floor just kind of falls through. You can knock down some trees, and then you can go into like this blood infested like blood fly kind of like basement thing, and it's all just rotten. It's the rot of these painted worlds. That's a big theme of the painted worlds, and just how grotesque and like how kind of oppressive being in that bloody rotting area is. I think that's very, very cool design wise. And then once you do all of this stuff, also, there's a great kind of, or it's not necessarily great, but it's cool that it's there, an optional area at the bottom of a canyon with giant frozen crabs and an optional boss fight. Not the best one ever, but fun to explore at least a little bit. But at the end of this whole thing, one of my favorite boss fights of the entire series, Sister Frigid and Father Ariandel. So exciting, so riveting. One of the most challenging but also the most rewarding things I've ever had to do in these games, and definitely my favorite boss fight, or my favorite like climax conclusion to any of these areas and their kind of self-contained stories on this list. All that said though, in first place I'm gonna have to put the first Painted World, and that is the Painted World of Ariamis. Similar to what I said about Forsaken Castle Cainhurst, with the Painted World of Ariamis from Dark Souls 1, there are a number of loopholes and weird kind of things that you have to do to even get to this area. Like knowing that you can get on top of a certain tower by rolling in the right way, and then when you're up there, knowing what kind of position to sit in to get flown back to the starting opening tutorial area, then knowing that you can explore that area now more thoroughly than you could before, finding the right item there, bringing that back, and just happening to bring that back to a painting in a seemingly totally unconnected, much later area of the game, then you can get sucked into this painting. But once you do, it's such a beautiful kind of tragic story that, like, while your character's literally sucked into the painting, we're, I think, really sucked into the story, the narrative in the painting of this crossbreed Priscilla, and she came to this rotted world, and she brought all of these other rotten things there with her so that they could all live in peace, and now you're sort of disrupting their peace. That being said, a lot of the things are pretty terrifying and seem to be in a lot of pain, so exactly what's going on there, I'm not sure we'll ever know, or exactly what instigated Priscilla being sent there, who her parents are. I guess it's probably what Seath and Gwendolyn is. I think that's one of the main theories I've heard. But yeah, just really, really, really cool stuff on a story level, design wise. Again, this is one of these areas where you just have like one main bonfire, and it's all about getting those shortcuts back to that one. So then the final boss rush or the final push to the end of the area is a little bit shorter. But to do all of that, I mean, just the trepidation and the fear of having to go down into that cellar with those bone wheel skeletons. Again, like after being ripped to shreds by them time and time before. I mean, that's such a palpable, real feeling of, do I want to risk that? I know I have to go down there because that's the only thing I haven't explored, and that must be how I open some such door. And I just, the enemy design's cool. The like the crow women with like the legs and like jump on your head. Really, really cool. Circling up that tower is perilous, and you're like, oh no, I better not fall off. Cool farming, like soul farming kind of spot there with all of the like phalanx enemies types in the middle, and yeah, so that's fun to clear out, to kind of grind a little bit. Yeah, Painted World of Ariamis. I mean, just the how involved it is getting there, the storytelling that happens when you're in there, the look of it, the mystery of it. It's all so amazing. So kind of like, I think if you have one area that encapsulates what the whole Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring experience is like, I'd say this Painted World of Ariamis from Dark Souls 1 is a really perfect kind of like shrunken down cipher or like example, representation of everything this series does so well. So yeah, there you have it. That's my ranking of the 9, what I've kind of picked out as 9 snowy, wintry areas from Fromsoftware's Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Sekiro types of games. Thank you, as always, for watching. Thank you so much. Please have a good day. Bye.